Hey, what's up, you guys? Today I have a very short, spooky story time for you guys. I know I've been through scarier things than this, but this is the one that keeps popping in my head when I start thinking about doing a spooky story time for you guys. So this is the one I went with. It's short, it's sweet, but it really affected me quite a bit. So it was about 5 years ago, 5, 6 years ago, and I was getting my children ready for bed. For those of you that don't personally know me, I have a son and a daughter. At the time, my daughter was 13 and my son was 8. They had already been bathed. They were already in their pajamas, ready to go to bed. I was tired, so I was ready to go to bed. This was around midnight, I want to say. Um, I believe it was over summer break, so there was no school or anything, so it didn't matter that they were going to bed so late before you guys start coming for me. Um, and my son was already in his room, and my daughter was standing in the hallway with her hands like on either side of the wall, just waiting for me. So I go to turn everything off. I go to turn off the living room light. And you know, when you turn off your lights, the switch makes that flicking sound. So I flicked it off and my arm started to drop as it does when you walk away from the light switch. And I turned to go towards my daughter to go into the hallway to put them to bed. My hand wasn't at my side for longer than 2 seconds when the light flicked back on. Like you could hear it. I wasn't looking at it. You can hear it flick back on. And this is in the process of me turning towards my daughter, okay? I just want to give you guys a good visual. And I'm turning towards my daughter when the light flicks on. So my hand is nowhere near the light switch. And as I turn, the light comes on. I look at my daughter, and we both have this like astounded look on our faces like, I know my hand was not near that light switch. And she was like, I didn't see mom's hand near that light switch. Why did the light turn back on? And we just stare at each other for a second. And then all of a sudden, I shit you not, guys, okay? All of a sudden, I feel something cold pass right through me. Like, when I say cold, I mean like freezing iceberg cold. It made literally, I know what the saying my blood ran cold means because I felt it. Like, it walked directly through me and I felt it leave my body. Like somebody just passed right through me. And I stopped dead in my tracks and I'm staring at my daughter at this point. I'm sure I'm white as a sheet and my eyes were probably like this big. And I started crying because whoever it was, whatever it was that passed through me, had such a feeling of despair. I've been sad in life, right? I lost my daughter 3 years ago. I know what sorrow feels like for myself. This is the most devastated, even to this day, that I've ever felt in my entire life was when whoever or whatever that was passed through me. Like, yes, I was heartbroken when my daughter died, but the feeling I felt when this thing passed through me, there was no relief. There was no nothing. It was just all torturous heartbreak, is the only way I can describe it. And I just started crying. And my daughter's looking at me like, Mommy, what's wrong? And I'm like, I was physically shaking. And at that point, my son started to come out wondering what was going on, what was taking so long. And when he heard my daughter ask me what was wrong, my son is very protective of me. So if he even thinks I'm crying, he's like right there. Even to this day, he's 13 now. But both the kids come over to me and I'm like literally my hands are like this. I'm like shaking badly. And I'm just like sobbing. Like the hardest sobs. And my kids are freaking out. They don't know what the hell happened. They don't know why I'm all of a sudden crying for no reason. I didn't hurt myself, nothing. And I sat down and I caught my breath because at this point I couldn't even breathe. I was crying so hard. And I calmed down and I explained to my kids what had happened. My daughter believed me. My son is one of those. I don't know if he's really a skeptic, but he's just like, okay, yeah, whatever, mom, whatever. So he went to bed. And so I finally calmed down and I immediately called my mom and a few other people just to make sure that people were okay. Because I just got this feeling that someone literally just died and came to say goodbye to me or just was passing through on their way to wherever they were going next. Everybody was fine. Everybody in my family was fine. Everybody that I knew was fine. And I don't believe that anybody in my neighborhood had passed away that night, but somebody literally like whooshed right through me. And it didn't scare me as much as it made me very sad. Just the feeling I felt. Whoever, whatever that was carrying around some shit, and it was not good. It sucked. It was the saddest I've ever felt. Like, it was bad. But I get the kids to bed. I come to my room. Nothing else happens. I never felt it again. The light switch has never flicked on or off by itself again. It was just very, very odd. Still don't know what it was, still don't know who it was, but it deeply affected me. It was insane. Now, as I mentioned, my daughter passed away 3 years ago. This is more of a funny, lighthearted, because it's what I want it to be. But we're always saying that she lives in the kitchen because that light freaks out all the time. And they put a new bulb in it. So since they put a new bulb in, I don't know if it just had a short, but in my head, it was my daughter messing with the light. Because if you know her, you know that she's flaquita, super, super, super skinny, can't gain weight to save her life, but ate like a pig. Okay? So we always say, oh, it's a Mercedes. She's in the kitchen. There's always tapping on my fridge. I think that's just like a settlement thing. It just happens. But we swear she's in the kitchen. So there's that. I'll do another quick one for you guys. Back in 2004, I had a miscarriage. Should have been a sign to stop having unprotected sex, but it wasn't. I had a miscarriage. Years and years later, I'm married to my ex-husband at the time. This was maybe 2010, 2009, somewhere around there. It's been a while. And it's morning time. He's just waking up. And he wakes me up because my daughter's at the door. And he shakes me and he's like, babe, was Mercedes in the bed with us last night? I was like, no, she slept in her room all night. Are you sure? I'm like, yes. He goes, I swear to you, I saw her curled up against your back last night. But then I woke up and she was by the door asking for you. I was like, no, she never came in here last night. So I was like, he was dreaming, whatever. A couple days go by, and I'm sitting at the end of my bed on my computer where I used to have it. And in the doorway, I swear I saw my daughter. So I turned to ask her what she wanted, but it wasn't my daughter. It looked a lot like her. A lot like her. And I just look over, and all of a sudden it backs away slowly and disappears. Now, the baby that I miscarried carried also had the same dad as my daughter. So it would make sense why that child would look like her. So I thought I was going nuts. But whatever. A couple nights later, we go to bed. I'm dead ass asleep, and something cold grabbed my foot. I think it was her. Years later, like 2, 3 years later, I'm in the kitchen making myself something to eat or making dinner or something, and I can see something walking in my peripheral vision behind my couch, just back and forth pacing. And I pay it no mind. I'm like, I'm seeing things, whatever. Then my kids aren't home. My kids are at school. My kids are not home. I am alone in my house at this time, right? So I'm doing my thing in the kitchen, making something to eat, and all of a sudden I hear somebody calling mama. But it doesn't sound like a normal mama, mommy, mom. It sounds very ghostly, apparition like you hear in the movies, like the long, drawn out, like, mama. And I was like, what the actual fuck? I could still see it out of my periphery walking back and forth behind the couch. And I look over and I don't see anything. Like when I look directly at it, I don't see anything. So I'm like, okay, I'm seeing shit and I'm hearing shit, whatever. I go back to my business and I keep hearing it and I keep hearing it and I keep hearing it. So at this point, I start talking to it. And I had named her Nirvana I just assumed that this was the child that I miscarried, so I had started calling her Nirvana. Because if I ever had another daughter, her name would be Nirvana Lennon Star. Fill in the blank. I can't have kids anymore, but fill in the blank, whoever that father would have been. Had it been my son, his name would have been Nirvana Lennon Star and his last name and all that jazz, but I digress. Um, so I started talking to her. I said, Nirvana, is that you? I'm sorry that things happened the way they happened, but everything happens for a reason. Just know that I love you and I'm here for you. Never saw her again. I don't know. I don't know. I've had a lot of things happen to me, ghost like wise. My grandpa, after he passed away, tried to take my favorite stuffed animal away from me. And I was like 2 or 3 when this happened. Um, but yeah, we've had some shit go down in our lives as a family. Most of us are believers. Um, my youngest nephew, had a toy that would go off by itself. And his sister started asking it questions to see if it was my daughter. Now, my daughter is a butthead. When she found out my brother and my sister in law were expecting, she was very excited. She cried. She was super excited. But then she found out they were having a boy. I guess my daughter was sexist. I don't know. Because my niece was born in December and she met her, she loved her. I have pictures of her. She's absolutely in love with her. But when my nephew was born, he was born about 3 weeks before she passed. I chalk it up to she was really sick at that time. Like she passed away 3 weeks after he was born. She was really sick and she just wasn't feeling it. She didn't want to go to my mom's house to go meet the baby and she just wasn't feeling it. So she never met him. But this toy, when my niece was asking it questions, she started asking it questions pertaining to my daughter and it was answering her. They called me in a tizzy, like, and told me this whole story, and I thought it was so cool. I was like, it was her. It was her. Mercedes is feeling bad that she never got to meet him, and I just think she's been watching over both of the babies. They're both 3 now. They're not babies anymore. But I think she's been keeping an eye and watching over them and making sure that they're okay. My niece doesn't remember her, obviously, because my niece was like 6 months old when she passed away. So my niece doesn't remember her, but she talks about her. She plays with her. She, my sister has a little area for all our deceased loved ones at her house. My dad, her father-in-law, her godmother, and my daughter. And she has a little Stitch and Angel toy up on the shelf. And her daughter will go to grab it, but she'll wait. Like she's waiting for my daughter to say it's okay for her to play with it. She'll play with it and she'll put it back. It's so odd. We've had so many things happen paranormal in our family, and I know not everybody is a believer, but I'm a huge believer in the paranormal. I absolutely love it. I'm hoping to get some paranormal content out on the channel, so hopefully we'll be seeing some stuff like that. Um, I want to get people together and maybe go to the cemetery here and do uh, some type of investigation or a seance or something like that. No Ouija boards invited because we don't fuck with that shit here. Uh, but yeah, if you guys are interested in seeing anything like that, if there's anything else you guys would like to see, if you guys have any spooky paranormal stories, let me know down in the comments below. I could go on forever with my stuff, my grandma messing with my radio, all kinds of things. But anyway, I hope you guys like this video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Like, comment, subscribe. I love you guys so much. Bye!